part of the presentation is going to involve me moving between a demo site, which is a training teacher, and another account, which is a training student. So this is our training teacher. It's Nick Teacher, who exists here and has a Google Classroom. And we're going to look at how we set and mark assessments. So I set up a test class on Monday that we've used sort of all week. So I'm going to use that for demonstrations. There's going to be a bit of a lag on my computer as I'm trying to do too many things at once, but there we are. We talked about the basics of classrooms on Monday, and yesterday we talked about setting up meets. So this classroom actually has a meet established in it, and again we'll talk about meets again next week. Don't intend to spend any time on it today. Again, we'll repeat the sessions that we have run this week next week, and most of the sessions from this week, apart from Mondays, were recorded and are going up on YouTube slowly when I get around to editing them. So I tend to work in the classwork tab. It makes most sense to me as a teacher to do that, and primary teachers certainly tend to use classwork more than anything else. I know there are some teachers who only work in the stream and they post something into the stream and expect children to work back with them. Doing that, you're not getting the best use and the best value out of your Google Classroom. So that's what we're really here, is to sort of show you some of the best, most efficient use of Google Classroom. So when you share resources in the classroom, there are two main options, although there looks like there's more. There's an assignment, which is a two-way thing. You're expecting them to do something and hand something back in. And then there are things like the material, which is a link or a resource that you're sharing, which is one way. So if you ask them to do something, two-way assignment, quiz assignment, or you can ask a quick question and literally all they can do is reply to the question. If it's something you're just sharing one way, a video, a PDF file, a web link, then it usually goes in as material, unless the expectation is that you want them to look at this resource and then do something off the back of it. So assignments is what we're going to really focus on, because it's a two-way process. And creating an assignment, it happens inside the classroom. You need a title for your assignment, so and that needs to reflect whatever you want them to do, probably to make it easy. At the moment, because we're working remotely, the instructions box is very, very useful to put in extra text into, but it isn't necessary. And then when we add an assignment, we don't actually have to add anything at all. So our assignment really could be upload a photo of you reading somewhere exciting. Sorry, I have to talk as I type. Can't do two things at once. And so it could be something as simple as that. And I can actually now apply it to multiple classes. So if I was having to cover for a colleague or we were team teaching, actually I could actually set this assignment now for multiple classes, which is a new feature. I could also differentiate within my class. Now this classroom's only got Albert in it, poor old Albert. But if we had 30 students in here, then I could actually say no, not all students, and just tick individual students. So you can differentiate through it. Points is all about the marking, and again, most primary schools aren't really using this. I'm only going to touch on it very briefly today, so we'll come back and look at that later. I can set a deadline, so I can say, yes, I'm expecting this to be done by, well, Friday, there we are, tomorrow, and I can set a time if I wish as a deadline, and then I can arrange it on my page into topics, and topics can be about anything at all. So let's create ourselves a brand new topic about reading for today. The other feature of assignments is you can now assign a rubric to it, so explaining a bit more to the students about what you're expecting to get out of it or how you will be marking something. Again, majority of primary schools aren't using this feature. There's also the ability now to turn on originality reports. Originality reports check the work that the children submit against a quick Google search. So if huge chunks have been copied from particular websites, it will highlight them and say, this may not be original, this is the source we found online. So it's leveraging the power of Google and the search engine to compare what the children are submitting with things that are available on the internet. So that's quite an interesting feature. Again, much more secondary really, but it's quite interesting to turn that on, particularly with some of your year sixes maybe, just to see how much they are pilfering from the internet for that, then talk about, you know, who it does actually own this, whose intellectual property rights are we infringing maybe by not using this properly. So I could just do something really simple like this, not add anything at all, and I can assign it or I can schedule it, just as we can with any of these items, whether it's material or an assignment, I can have it to come on Thursday next week, for example. So I'm just quickly going to assign that now. So that upload a photo of you reading somewhere has now appeared in the classroom. If I switch screens and take you into the screen of Albert, who is my student, and we bring him into the same classroom, he'll see there's something new that's appeared. He sees that on his stream. It also appears in his upcoming box, which is brilliant because it then flags this is due shortly. And that's where putting a deadline on it's quite handy, because it does mean it just pops into this upcoming box, which is really quite helpful to sort of prioritize what they need to do. So now Albert looks in here and I go, upload a photo of you reading somewhere. Okay, don't know what that's about. Nothing obvious. But if I go view assignment, I can make a comment. So I could say, I can't, I haven't got a camera, or, oh yes, I can. Can I upload more than one? And then as a student, you can add or create. So this is where you can say, actually, I've got this file that I've managed to get onto my laptop maybe, or I've got something that I've already uploaded to Google Drive and I can find it and I can attach it. So let me just go File, and select from my device. I'm here on my Mac. It's going to be a bit ad hoc, but I think on my desktop there's an image I can grab. Let's grab that one. And so I can take a piece of work or a file that I've got, or a photo I've got, and just upload that as part of the work. So it isn't the fact that I've shared something with them and I expect them to do it and then hand it back in. And that attachment will then go into the classroom as part of my work I've submitted. So when that's finished uploading, which it's still doing at the moment, still processing, there we are, I now have a live turn in button. And as students, that's by way of me signifying to the teacher that I've finished with that piece of work. Now, if Albert doesn't click that button and Albert wanders off, does something else, gets distracted, internet crashes, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. As teacher, back in the teacher screen here, I know there's a piece of work that's been set. I know it's still assigned to one student. Nobody's turned it in yet. If I click on that, it will say, here's Albert's piece of work and here's the image he's uploaded already. And so I can go into that and I can look at the image that Albert shared, and I can now make private comments on it, which go straight back to Albert, even though he hasn't submitted it, hasn't handed it in, hasn't turned it in, as the phrase goes here. I can also offer a grade if I wish, but as I say, a majority of primary schools are just ignoring the grade bit. Just completely ignore it. Just don't worry about it particularly. Private comments are the important things. So I can add a comment. Something banal. There we are. That will do for the moment, and that immediately then is available to Albert, because it's a private comment between myself and Albert. So if I change back to Albert, here we are with Albert. There is a new comment that's just come through. As a student, I can then reply to that if I wish. And it says Albert's got the turn in button. So if Albert had remembered to turn it in, it would say, okay, you've got an attachment, it's submitted. Am I happy? Quick reminder. Yes, I'm happy. I'm finished with the piece of work. I'm turning the piece of work in. So now I've turned it in. That work is still existing. It still sits here in my test class space. So if it's Albert, if I go and look in classwork, there's the piece of work. It's due tomorrow, telling me I've turned it in. I can still go and view it. If Albert suddenly decides, actually, I've got a better picture I want to submit instead, I can unsubmit that, which allows me to go back in and allows me to add or create extra items. So actually I can attach more than one thing if I wish. But anyway, we'll just hit the turn in button as Albert. So Albert's handed that in. Back here, if I just close that window again for the moment, you'll see now that Albert has turned in the piece of work. It's indicating it's turned in. And again, I've got access to the piece of work. I've also got access to the folder where the piece of work has been put by Albert. And so, well, by the system automatically, if you like. So it's no longer just in Albert's folder. It's been shared through to my own, as teacher, my drive, into my classroom folder, into the test class folder inside Classroom. and it's here inside this folder of this piece of work. And of course, I called the piece of work Upload a Photo if you're reading somewhere exciting, because that was the title for the piece of work. And here it is. And if we'd had 30 children upload a photo, we'd have 30 photos sitting in here all ready for me to look at. From in here, I've got the ability to move things, to rename things. I can open it and have a look at it. I can share it with other people, but there are no other big features, things that I can do. If I open the image, again, there's not a lot of options here for me to do. I do, though, however, have the option to add a comment now. So I can comment about some specific part of this image, for example, and that comment, it now attaches to the actual image. Doesn't appear as part of the assignment, and this has caused some confusion with some teachers. I know just before Easter we had a couple of questions around this. So teachers are busy marking a piece of work. So this could have been, for example, the photograph of a maths worksheet that a child has filled in and has submitted it, and the teacher will come here and will make comments, but those comments don't immediately appear for the children. So this particular aspect of using an assignment this way has some things that we need to sort of understand. So back as Albert, here's Albert, here's his piece of work. That comment hasn't come through because the piece of work, the comment was on the piece of work. If Albert looks at the piece of work, there is no comment because Albert's looking at his copy of the piece of work, not the one that is in the teacher's folder. And this is where the big confusions come, and it makes it a little bit harder to deal with. So if we take Albert back into his class, if Albert looks in the class drive folder, Albert can see his own work in the class drive folder. There's Albert's original piece of artwork. There's other things that Albert has done in this class in the past. And again, if Albert looks at this particular picture, now the comments are here, and that is the thing that people have lost and have found very difficult to work out. Where is this gone? So it is a bit long-winded. You'd think that if you were in the assignment and you click on the picture, that would be the one with the comments on. But unfortunately, Google keeps multiple copies and puts them different places, and unfortunately forces people to look at the different copies, which is just really annoying. So this is the workaround, but it means you have to train your students to say, actually, okay, I don't know where it's been marked, but if I go into the class drive folder, I can find my piece of work, and then I can see what's been marked and what's been said on it. So that's slightly complicated. So that's, if you like, really basic way of sharing a piece of work without actually sharing any work at all, actually asking for a child to do something. So that, again, quick recap, we were in class work, we created an assignment, and literally all we did was put a title on it. So that works fine. It's a little long-winded to then find the piece of work. If you want children to do something like that, then to be honest, the better option is probably to have started a document and shared a document with them. So that's where I have to get my my Google head in gear. My Microsoft brain tells me if I wanted to create a word processing document, I would open up Microsoft Word, I would create the document, and I would go File, Save As, and decide where to put the piece of work. My Google brain says what I have to do is go to Drive, find the right folder to put it in. So it might be we were doing something about reading, so I might want a reading folder. I may even have to go and create myself a folder. Let's call this one Reading. Open the correct folder, and then create the type of document I want to use. So yes, Google Docs, word processing is compatible with Word. Sheets, spreadsheet, compatible with Excel. Slides, compatible with PowerPoint. So I would go, okay, let's have a quick blank-ish doc. I will put a title in it just for neatness, where I read, maybe. Click up at the top because it's called Untitled Document, which is not what I want. So if I click up on there, Google takes a punt at what it thinks I should be calling it and decides it's where I read, and I'm happy with that as a title for my piece of work. It's automatically saved. I can just close it. I finished with that now. But because I've created a document, it's now easy for me to say, right, let's create an assignment. where I like to read, open document, and add a photo of where you like to read. There are some quick instructions, and this time I am going to add, and I created it in Google Drive, so I'm going to go to Google Drive. It's recently created, so it will appear here on my recently created list. If I was reusing something from before, I just hunt around in my drive for it. If you team teach, you go to shared drives and pull out something from a shared drive. Google doesn't matter where you're sharing it from. So I'm going to take where I read and add it to this piece of work. By default, students can view a file. That's no use to me. I want them to better actually have their own copy and put their own photo in it. So I will go for make a copy for each student. Because I've chosen the Google Docs format, there's no worry about software or compatibility, because all students who can get into Classroom are going to be able to get to Google Docs because it's all part of the Google process. And again, let's stick it in reading. Let's give it a due date of Friday. Then it will appear on my I've got something to do list. I could differentiate if I wished, but I'm just going to assign it now straight away. And that will make a copy of a blank document with each child's name and put it in a folder ready for me. So it's a little bit more long-winded than just saying, okay, share me a picture, go. And in the same way, it could be that I have shared material, which is a nice worksheet. I'm expecting they'll better print it off at home or write it out at home, possibly if they haven't got printers, and then photograph it and hand it back into me. Now, I could do that by just saying, here's your link, go and do this piece of work and then upload the photo. But it makes it very much harder then for me to come and have that dialogue back. So this time I've set it as a document where I like to read. If we go back to Albert, Albert's got that. It's arrived as a piece of work to do. And this time Albert's got a document to go into here. So this time Albert's a little bit more structured. I could have had more instructions in there. My instruction said add a picture of where you like to read to the document, so that's absolutely fine. Albert can do that. He can go quick. I'm going to insert. I'm going to insert an image, upload it from my computer, and I'll go for the same document, which is that one there, same image. And that image will appear inside the document, which is really quick and easy. It's a bit big, so it's gone onto a second page. Or Albert could be nice and edit it around slightly to make it slightly easier for me as the teacher, couldn't he? And then basically, if I'm happy with it, Albert's got the turn in button and it's ready to go. That's all I've asked Albert to do. The system will say, are you sure you're ready to hand it back in? There we are, one attachment will be submitted, and Albert can say yes, absolutely fine, or not. Albert can make comments about the piece of work even afterwards. So it was too hard, it was too easy, I needed help with this, or another related comment. Maybe I found a really good website that helped me with this. All those sorts of things could go into comments. So Albert's completed the piece of work. So this time as teacher, when I go here, I'm going back to open the new document. It's been handed in by Albert. Isn't that great? This time I get access to Albert's actual document. And because I've got access to Albert's document and he's got access to that document, we're working on the same document. So if I come into Albert's document and I look at his piece of work, anything I write, anything I comment, he can get back to straight away this time. So if I grab the whole picture this time and go comment, comment in, that comment is immediate, and that comment is immediately will be available. I can add a private comment in here. And pop that as a private comment in the document as well. And I can return it if I want Albert to do something. So that's the return button. If I'm happy for him just to read the comments I've got there, then there's nothing to worry about. I can move on to the next student. I could go back down the list. Of course, Albert's the only student, or scroll through. So that document for me now as teacher, I have marked it, I have handed it in. Albert, if we go back, well, we're here, this is where we are. Let's just imagine that he's come back the next day. That's that private comment I left. In the actual private comments box, they're not going to appear unless the teacher hands it back. So let's just do that now. Let's just go into the piece of work by Albert and return that piece of work. There we go. Return it. I can see it's highlighted at the top. And there we are. The comments come through eventually. Took a little while, so I need to hand it back for them to be able to see the comment, which is a little bizarre. But that's fine. So the comments will actually persist with the document, and the student has access to the document. So it's a little long-winded. It does mean as teacher, those comments will stay there and be on your copy, so you've got access to it all the time. And the reason why this is quite important is if I swap back to me as teacher, if as teacher I say, okay, brilliant, now they did a marvelous job on that, but that was last week and we need to move on. And so therefore this task here where I like to read, I've finished with it now, I'm going to delete it to declutter my workspace. It warns me that grades and comments will also be deleted. So those private comments that I put in and shared actually through the system will all vanish at this point. However, the comments I put on the actual document stay on that actual document and are still available through the Class Drive folder to me as teacher and to the students. So Albert, in this case, will be able to still get back there and still be able to see those comments if he's still got edit rights, which say not handed in, basically. So it's a little long-winded and a little complicated, but it means that you get far more control as teacher. And that's part of the issues we've got here. So I'm going to delete that. It's going to be gone forever. There we are. We've also had problems with teachers wanting to upload resources which are not Google resources. So if we go create an assignment this time as the teacher and complete this document, and this time we say, okay, I've got this file on my computer. It's a Word document. And I'm going to add the Word document and I want you to work on it. So here's my lovely test Word document ready to go. And we upload that. And I say, right, I'd like a copy for each student. And it's going to go into, I'll just stick it loose at the top, no topic whatsoever, absolutely fine. And I'll just send it straight out now. So this is a Word document this time. I've asked the system to make a copy for each student. And the way that the doc worked was that they got an editable copy each. And we thought, brilliant, this is what we want. So Albert Pupil there, his new task, complete this doc. And Albert goes, great, okay, I've got a Word document to work on. It's got my name on it. It's also here if I go to this other view. But when Albert opens this document, this is all Albert gets to see. So there is not a lot of options. Print. Open in a new window. It's complicated. It's possible to do. Poor old Albert has to go, I want to go into my Class Drive folder. And Albert has to go hunting for this Word document in the Class Drive folder. There it is. Whoops, there it is with the W on it. And Albert has to open it from here to be able to edit it, which then it does by trying to open what it calls an Office editor for docs. So you will lose some formatting and some functionality, but you'll better get some basic Word editing. And that's really, really, really a bit annoying and not a nice experience for the students, which is why if we can use the doc, it's an awful lot easier than using Word, because the doc's format is just something that will work straight away with the Google format, with Google Classroom. It's all built to work together. Word, you're throwing an alien thing into the mix. So it all gets very complicated. So this route isn't a nice experience for the students sharing a Word document. What would have been better would have been for the teacher to say, okay, I know I've got this Word document. And let's go back into my Drive. And I've got my Word document, and it might be about anything, doesn't really matter. And what I would do then is I would upload this file. So you can just drag and drop, or you can go new file upload, pull in the Word document, absolutely fine. There's no reason why you can't reuse your Word document. But when you've got your Word document, there we are, test Word document. As a teacher, What you can do is you can say, yeah, I'm going to open it with Google Docs. It will do exactly the same. Office Editor, not such a nice experience. Doesn't work so easily. Still not compatible. But I've got the option to go File, Save as a Google Doc, which converts it to a Google Doc. Now, the saving it isn't totally perfect. It will mess up complicated formatting. It may mess up things like tables as well. It's not perfect as a solution, but it does mean what we end up with is a doc format. If I was then to share this as an assignment, it will work. The children will better click on it, go straight into it, and will be able to edit it. And that just removes the bumps, makes it seamless, makes it simpler for your students. So yes, if you've got resources in Word, it's not the end of the world. Bring it into, open it with Docs and get it to convert it, get it to go File, Save As. And then you'll end up with a Word version with the W on it, so you know that's the Word version, and the Docs version, which has got the Docs little page template on it. So it is much, much, much simpler to do this sort of thing. So the other sorts of assignments you may want to do is using a quiz. It asks some simple questions: which school are you at, what year are you in, are you male or female, just so we can get some basic demographics. But what we've managed to do is we've embedded YouTube videos. So this is a resource from CEOP, from the Think You Know website. And the idea is we can say, watch this video, and then here's some questions to answer. In the same way, we could put up a photograph, or it could be an extract from a book in text format. Read this, then answer the questions about it. It could be a photo, it could be a map. Look at this map, tell us what features you find in this particular box. So you can actually, in using the quiz, you can make some quite complicated things by embedding extra content as an assignment, which is great. And you can point people at some other different resources. So this makes a lot of there's a lot of added value, the fact that you can bring together several different forms of input for the child, things to look at, and then you can quiz them about it as part of the quiz. So turning points off. So if I was to create a brand new assignment, again, the points are set at 100. I can say ungraded. Okay, so that's an option, and say, actually, I don't want a grade attached to this. So let's just do a quick test assignment. And create it ungraded and see what it looks like as for the student. So that's a new assignment that's just been assigned. I get nothing about grades on there as teacher, which is great. So that takes that pressure off. If I go into here as student, there we are, it's just arrived, test assignment. And again, doesn't say anything about grades. If I go into view assignment, yeah, just everything about grades disappears.